Bennett, I thought you were...
Dead? Ever since you had me thrown out of your unit, I've waited to pay you back. Do you know what today is, Matrix? Payday.
Colonel Matrix, if you kill President Velasquez, I will send her back to you. If you try anything else, I will mail her to you in pieces.
Have some beers in Valverde, Matrix. It'll give everyone a little more time with your daughter.
Funny guy, Sully. I like you. That's why I'm going to kill you last.
Sally.
You know, some people are using her to force me to do a job. If I don't get to her soon, they'll kill her. The only chance now is that I get to her before they find out what I'm doing.
Back.
October 1985 saw the ultimate B action movie film Commando explode on the big screen. Directed by Mark L. Lester, Commando was made on a budget of $10 million. The movie grossed $35 million worldwide, so was a moderate success considering its low budget. The script to Commando was written by Jeph Loeb, who had originally envisioned Gene Simmons playing the part of John Matrix, the film's lead. Simmons, however, passed on the part, so Loeb rewrote the script, this time with Nick Nolte of Cape Fear fame playing Matrix. However, Nolte was uninterested in taking on the part as well. The script went through numerous rewrites with different writers, each adding their own contributions. Aside from Jeph Loeb, Larry Gross and Richard Tuggle also contributed to the Commando script. Ultimately, however, Stephen E. D'Souza wrote the finalized shooting script. The film was inspired by DC Comics character Sergeant Rock, which was first published in 1959. Arnold Schwarzenegger and producer Joel Silver had attempted to make a Sergeant Rock movie for years. Screenwriter Jeph Loeb had even written some of the Sergeant Rock comics and gave some of the film characters their names used in the comics. Once the script was finalized, Mark L. Lester was brought on board as director. Originally, Joel Silver wanted John McTiernan to direct. McTiernan, however, turned the project down, but did go on later to direct Arnold in Predator and Last Action Hero. Mark L. Lester has said Commando is his personal favourite film he has directed, and describes Commando as the quintessential 80s action film and granddaddy of the genre. Shooting began on April 22, 1985 and lasted for 45 days. Shooting around California at locations such as Sherman Oaks Galleria, which was also used as the shopping mall in Terminator 2, Surplus City Gun Store, Los Angeles International Airport, and finally Ayres' hideout was shot at San Simonhurst Castle, with a watchtower and army barracks built by the production crew to be blown up during Matrix's rampage at the end of the film. The crew also constructed a hotel mock-up for the fight with Cook along the Pacific Coast Highway. For the cast, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the part of Special Forces Commando and brick shit out John Matrix. Due to his questionable acting abilities, Studio executives didn't want Arnold to have any lines in the movie at all, which is crazy if you think how that would have turned out like. Arnold performed many of his own stunts in this movie, due to the fact that finding a stunt double for him proved impossible at the time. He suffered stitches due to a knife cut and even a dislocated shoulder during filming. Arnold received a $1.5 million salary on this picture, but he said he took the role because before all the shooting and violence, he was a normal guy, not a muscle-bound caveman. Vernon Wells plays apeshit villain Bennett, a former soldier of Arnold's unit who got cut due to his love of violence. Vernon Wells had previously appeared in Mad Max 2 as the Psycho Wes. Wells described Bennett as Freddie Mercury on steroids. Wells wasn't the original choice for Bennett and was cast after the other actor dropped out, so you'll notice his costume is super tight. Due to the film's low budget, another costume could not be constructed in time. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Vernon Wells have remained very good friends since making this movie, due to the fun they had on set. Arnold joked with director Mark Lester, stating, "Please don't give Vernon a real knife," due to his crazy and offbeat performance. Rae Dawn Chong plays Cindy, Matrix's helper, throughout the film. Rae smashed her audition and wanted to make the film, stating Arnold would make it a smash hit. She provides the film's comedy relief. A love scene was shot between her and Arnold, however this was dropped as it was deemed unconvincing, and boy am I glad they dropped that. Hedaya plays the film's villain Ayres, a dictator who kidnaps Matrix's daughter. Fans will recognise Dan from films like Alien Resurrection and Small Soldiers. Dan hated firing the on-set weapons and found the experience of the action scenes awful to shoot. Mark Lester originally wanted Raul Julia from the Addams Family for the part of Ayres, but at Joel Silver's request, Hedaya was cast. Bill Duke pops up as the villain Cook, Green Beret who's going to kick some big ass. Bill and Arnold obviously worked together again on The Predator alongside producer Joel Silver. And finally we have Alyssa Milano as Jenny Matrix, Arnold's kidnapped daughter. She and Arnold became great friends on set, with Arnold even helping with her homework. Many actresses were considered, including Elizabeth Shue, Winona Ryder and Patricia Arquette for the role. When back at school, many of Alyssa's friends jokingly called her Conan as a nod to Arnold's previous character Conan the Destroyer. The film begins showing us Arnold's massive swans. He's got a whole lot of log and a chainsaw in the woods. We're soon shown he has a young daughter, Jenny. They're shown doing typical father-daughter stuff like eating ice cream, feeding deer, and practicing kick-ass special forces moves. We then cut to a military chopper, and Matrix's former boss, General Kirby, arrives to inform Matrix that many of his former team members have been assassinated, and that Matrix and his daughter are in grave danger. Kirby does, however, leave some cheap cannon fodder for the bad guys to dispose of. Soon after Kirby leaves, they are attacked by some heavies. Matrix, however, loads up and kills them all before driving downhill, crashing into the bad guys to rescue Jenny. However, Bennett, a former member of Matrix's team before Matrix kicked him out due to his obsession with killing, trank darts him and takes him to Ayres, the film's main villain. Ayres, played by Hedaya, explains that Matrix must kill a president somewhere or other, or his daughter will be minced and sent back to him first class. Matrix is soon loaded onto a plane with generic goon number 10 watching over him. Matrix, however, soon breaks the bug's neck and delivers a classic line.
Don't disturb my friend, he's dead tired.
He then enters the bowels of the plane and leaps off it, landed safely on some weeds. Way over the top, implausible, but damn awesome. He then proceeds to follow Sully, played by David Patrick Kelly, through the airport. After Sully's advances to air stewardess Cindy are rejected, Matrix commandeers her car and follows Sully to a shopping mall, where Sully intends to pick up some forged passports from a typical 80s Mexican bad guy, complete with 80s porn stash. After pleading with Cindy to help him, Matrix waits to interrogate Sully. However, Cindy has dropped Matrix into more security, and they attempt to arrest Matrix. but he fights off 100 guards in a very silly over-the-top fight. He then chases down Sully and a car crash ensues. Sully is soon run off the road and Matrix tries to beat the location of Jenny out of him. However, Sully still refuses to talk, so Matrix drops him off a cliff, followed again by another typical 80s cheesy one-liner.
What'd you do with Sully?
I let him go.
Cindy and Matrix soon arrive at a seedy motel where Sully was planning to meet Cook. Matrix, having taken the room key off Sully, enters the room with Cindy. Soon, however, Cook arrives and we have yet another generic fight scene with lots of cheesy one-liners, grunting noises and over-the-top punching sound effects. Cook is spiked and dies before any information can be obtained. After a quick search of Cook's car, Cindy discovers a receipt for jet fuel because of course she's been taking flying lessons and she knows this piece of paper and the information on it. They head out to one of Ayres' arsenal factories and discovers a lot of tanks, guns and bad guys, but more importantly coordinates to an island where Matrix believes Jenny is being held. They also notice a seaplane moored nearby, which will soon be commandeered by the duo to fly to the island, which of course Cindy can fly. But before that, however, they must go shopping for supplies, so Arnie, or rather his obvious stunt double, smash through the windows of a gun surplus store. I guess all that Special Forces Commando training didn't teach you the art of stealth or subtlety, hey Matrix? Nevertheless, Cindy and Matrix arm themselves for the battle ahead, but LA's finest soon arrive and take Matrix into custody. Without handcuffs, I might add. Look at that, he's not even cuffed. Cindy, however, uses the massive rocket launcher, blows up the van and frees Matrix. Heading to the seaplane, a short gunfight happens, nothing too over the top or really interesting, and Cindy and Matrix fly out to Ayres' island. Oh, and we have a blink and you'll miss it appearance from Bill Paxton for some bizarre reason, but Bill's always great, so that's cool. So, rest in peace, Bill. Arriving at the island, Matrix strips down to his tighter-than-tight speedos and rows to shore. He then ditches the speedos and suits up in full commando gear and weaponry to wage a one-man war to rescue Jenny. Meanwhile, the plane has landed at Valverde Airport and Ayres is informed that Matrix was not on the plane and orders Bennett to kill Jenny. Matrix, however, has been setting up mines and killing generic goons, and when discovered, blows the compound to the ground. This Austrian mounting of badass now mows down hundreds of goons and finally takes out Ayres with ease. He descends down to a boiler room to rescue Jenny. However, Bennett has captured her and is holding her at knife point. Matrix, playing on Bennett's self-incivility and self-superiority, persuades him to a knife fight, and the pair battle to the death. Bennett is electrocuted and seems to power up to mega badass, but Matrix lands about 1,000,000 punches of bitch slaps on him before Bennett calls it quits on the knives and reaches for a gun. Matrix yanks a massive pipe from the wall and throws it straight through Bennett's chest and delivers my personal favourite quote of the film.
Let off some steam, Bennett.
And the film ends with hundreds of dead bodies, Matrix reunited with his daughter, Jenny and Cindy ready to fly them all home. What's to be said about Commando? It's the quintessential definition of 80s cheese popcorn entertainment. A new rating should be enforced. Rate this movie M for manly. Cheesy one-liners, huge explosions, run-of-the-mill characters with motivations and backstories as thin as a piece of paper, crazy and over-the-top shootouts and fights, and overacting from nearly all of the cast. This film should have been a flop, but for some reason all these ingredients stirred into this pot seem to work. I do think in large part to the presence of Arnold. With any other low-key or even big-name star, I don't think this film would have gelled with audiences. I don't even think Stallone could have made this material work. With Rambo Part 2 being released around the same time as Commando, but having a more serious tone and softer, deeper edge characters amongst the action, what Arnold and the Commando crew have done is to not replicate that format, but to take all the key elements and turn it up to 11. Our characters' backstories and motivations are basic at best, but just enough to move the story along, much in the same way that Predator does. We have an abundance of practical effects and stuntmen performing in this movie, which is great. Flips from grenade explosions, falling off rooftops, crashing through windows. It's all in here, and as over the top as you could imagine. There are numerous mistakes in the movie, such as seeing flip ramps for the stuntmen, cables, obvious doubles for Arnie, and the now iconic damaged, undamaged Porsche. But that's down to the film's low budget, but again, who cares? Siskel and Ebert were split on this one. Ebert loved the film for its generic action, typical 80s storylines and overacting. Siskel, as always, was a bit more critical.
Commando, and it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as Rambo crossed with Superman. This guy is the greatest commando fighter who ever lived. Just to carry around the weapons that he uses, he has to be in great shape. Ever since Robert De Niro strapped on all those knives and guns in Taxi Driver, there's been an obligatory scene in a lot of violent movies where the warrior suits up for battle. And when Schwarzenegger is finished, he looks like a closeout sale at the weapons store. Pistols, knives, rifles, machine guns, grenades, and a portable rocket launcher.
I expected to see a credit at the end of the film, Mr. Schwarzenegger's clothes provided by General Dynamics.
He's after the men in this movie who kidnapped his daughter, and in this scene, he tries to get help from Rae Dawn Chong in chasing one of the kidnappers through a shopping mall.
Come with us.
Commando is more of an action comic strip than a movie. The plot motivation is paper thin in this film. Schwarzenegger, tough guy. Bad guys kidnap daughter, he blow him up real good. This movie doesn't have the role.
Probably the whole script.
Right, there you got it, right there. It was a real short script. It's on the back of a small envelope. This movie doesn't have the sophistication of Terminator, Schwarzenegger's last big hit, but it's an effective entertainment, and there are three reasons for that. First, the special effects action sequences do work. Second, the sense of humor that's provided in this movie by Rae Dawn Chong is very refreshing. She can't believe that all this is happening to her. She provides a normal person in this strange comic world. And third, the dependable presence of Schwarzenegger is good. He's strong enough to carry a goofy movie like this in more ways than one. If I have a real objection to the film, it's the character of the villain who we saw there in the last scene, who is, I think, almost unmistakably presented as sort of a leather sort of homosexual guy.
Absolutely, no question. As if Arnold Schwarzenegger had to prove that he was a man by beating him, and there's something a little weird going on there. I have a couple more objections. I wish they had gotten to the Commando sequences sooner. It's only like the last 20 minutes in the film. I wish he had put on the grease paint and the G.I. Joe clothes a little bit sooner. I think it would have helped the movie. It sags a little for me. The other objection is that when we do get the G.I. Joe sequences, I thought that some of those weren't as exciting as maybe a couple of the car chases that had gone on before. I mean, but what does he do? He blows up some buildings. We see him shot from 4 different angles. Blow, 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 blow.
Blows them up real good.
He blows them up real good. I can't recommend the film. The Rae Dawn Chong character is probably my favorite in the whole film.
And she was fun. The one thing I noticed in the film that was fun is the sentry in the tower. This is an absolutely obligatory scene. Yes. I saw the tower. I was waiting for it. The guy always goes, and falls out. And I was happy to see that he made it.
Overall, this is a classic. I grew up watching this around my best friend's house, always quoting the now classic phrases. It's by no means high art. It knows exactly what it is, the type of audience it's aiming for. It has just enough of a storyline to keep you engaged, but even more action to keep you excited. While in the 80s, Commando was probably seen as a B-movie in and out of theatres in a week type film, today in 2018, however, it is seen as a classic action film that in some ways was the peak of the action genre, above the Die Hards, the Rambos and the Chuck Norris films. It took all the classic tropes from all those movies and just ran with it. From the explosions, witty one-liners, generic villains, over-the-top gun sounds and punches, it just went all the way. It's a testosterone-soaked movie. It's definitely a product of the 80s, and it's a shame we don't have stars and films like this today. We sort of had a comeback with The Expendables, but that didn't fly, unfortunately. The decade of the 80s action heroes have well and truly died, as these films could never be replicated again, I don't think. Give this a watch ASAP. This is one of Arnold's classics. A quick, 1.5 hour long, pure testosterone action extravaganza that is so manly you'll grow a full moustache and chest hair after you've watched it.